Well, thank you very much, guys, for showing up. This is a big moment for me, connecting with my friends. I'm having this wonderful show going on right now at an amazing gallery at Springfield Art Association. It opened a week ago, only a week ago, on Friday. It was a wonderful night. It was great to see so many people hungry for going into a physical gallery. And I was excited too. When I drove out to Springfield, it was more than 3-hour drive, but I was smiling all the way. It's so wonderful to just get out and to show up and talk art with people. So and there's clearly hunger for that. This exhibition is sort of a retrospective, even though the artworks are not arranged in a chronological order. What we decided to do is to create groups. Every group is composed out of 2, 3, 5, and even more paintings in possibly clashing styles and visual languages. But what we wanted to track was to see if there is a continuity, if there is a constancy in what's important to me as an artist and as a person. So the visual language changes and the art changes, but the essence pretty much stays the same. In fact, I wanted to name this talk, "I'm Not My Style." So there's a huge pressure right now to develop a recognizable style. I'm kind of rebelling against it. I'm naturally cycling through various styles almost every year. Something is changing, and it's changing naturally without me planning anything ahead of time. It just happens. So I'm not an abstract artist. I'm not a figurative artist. I'm just an artist. So let me show you a few photographs of the actual gallery. Let me just share my screen. So these are, I hope they're visible to you guys. These are pics of the real gallery. The exhibition is called Conversations Beyond Language. So you see some groups here. Let me go to the next one.
We can see the folder. Can you show the actual pictures?
Oh, I see. Okay. Let me. Thank you. Can you see the bigger one now? Okay, great. So just a few pictures. It's a beautiful gallery. It's amazingly well kept. So the organization is impeccable there. So these are some of my paintings. Okay. Let me now go to my website. What we've done is we created a virtual version of this exhibition so that I could show it to more people. Not everybody was ready to drive 3 hours from Chicago to Springfield. So there are 12 groupings we call conversations at Springfield. Online, we created 20 conversations, and it's hosted on my website. Let me go to my website right now. Okay, on my home page, you will see Enter Virtual Exhibition. It takes you to the next page. And then from there, you can just click Enter Exhibition. The best way to travel through my exhibition is to enter full screen. So I'm clicking the full screen option. So, okay. Let me just give you a quick tour. we tried to create this online exhibition in a space that's reminiscent of the gallery's proportions. So it looks a little bit like a museum exposition with some exhibits. There's a lot of text. Every grouping has a name and has a brief text which explains why these particular artworks are grouped together. So there are two spaces here. As people who are walking in a real gallery, since so many styles are present, I've heard people commenting, this is overwhelming. So we've achieved what we wanted to do. We mixed up so many styles, figurative and abstract, no problem. So it was very telling, it was very interesting for me to see that there are continuities. We just go to this conversation. I will not have time to go through every conversation. You can do it on your own. In fact, I'll show you how to do it. If you click on the title, which is here, Dimitri Pavlotsky, Conversations Beyond Language, from there you can keep clicking next, 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 and so on. So it will keep taking you to the next artwork. So this is the first conversation. It's called Artist as Polyglot. You see 5 different styles. The work on the left is very early artwork, and the one on the right is was done during pandemic, during the lockdown in Chicago, during the social unrest here, and the uprising. The one in the middle is a self-portrait as Gauguin. It was carved out of very unfitting for carving pine wood, very hard to work with, it splinters. But somehow I was so inspired by reading Gauguin's letters, and he was excellent at carving. So I tried to carve myself as well, but being the struggler that I am, I needed my struggles, so I picked a wood that's not very good for it. I want the resistance from the material. I want my hand to be tripped by the material, so I engage better that way. Maybe it's my personality that requires this tension. This one is a portrait of Haim Soutine. And this one is this one, let's see, I forgot the title. There's a lot going on in the country, that's what it's called. Okay. The one across the street is pretty key conversation for me. So there are 3 portraits here. The one on the left is my self-portrait when I did back in Moscow, Russia, while still in school, already studying art. The one on the right-hand side was done 1 year ago. It's an abstract portrait. And the one in the middle is a few years back. Looking at this exhibition, it seems like my drive is the connection with the other, with someone else. Every portrait is a self-portrait. Every self-portrait has elements of the other in there. But my perception of the world around me has been changing. The one on the left, the more figurative portrait, it's me. It's officially a self-portrait. It's done in the style of Edward Munch. I was very influenced by Edward Munch, but it's not just Munch. It's a combination of my academic training with strokes following the form and the beautiful poetic colors of Edward Munch. Seems like I'm looking at the world right now with pained eyes. The world is not safe, and I'm kind of peering out, hopefully, but I'm scared. The one in the middle, done a few years later, has this mask. It's almost like a concrete, solidified mask that is saying, you're not going to get to me. One eye is painted shut, and the other eye is kind of looking suspiciously at what's going on in front. There's this major war going on, brushwork war on the face, which reflects the struggles of the individual, wanting to come out and being afraid and resisting. So I wanted to reflect that in the way my brush moves. The one on the right-hand side, which is recent, reflects that I got more comfortable with myself and what's around me. This is an interior portrait. Basically, I stepped inside of somebody's head. I've noticed some people notice that this is a head, some people don't, and it may take some training and seeing more abstract art, but to me, this is a head. But we are inside of that head, and we are just observing the interior landscape of the person. So it's like 3 stages. First, fear, and then resisting, and the third one is I'm totally inside of the other person. And it's quite an adventure to be in there. This conversation is pretty important to me as well. The large work in the middle right now is interior portrait, again, of French philosopher Albert Camus. And I was trying to imagine the process of thinking here. So the thinking is happening organically to the philosopher. I did it in several sessions, overlaying next layer of strokes and colors onto the previous color, creating a 3D effect. So you can see that some colors are stepping forward, some are receding. And the whole thing is painted on a metaphysical, invented background, this kind of pale green. Basically, we're inside of a thinker as he thinks what's next. The two on the right side are portraits of Haïm Soutine, again, interior portraits. And there's quite a difference between how I perceive Haïm Soutine and the existential philosopher. Haïm Soutine, for those who do not know, was an immigrant, and he moved from Lithuania to Paris, was a friend, one of the best friends with Modigliani. But Soutine was a very unrefined person as a person. He didn't leave any thoughts, no journals, just a few scribbles. In fact, I don't think he ever learned French that well. So he was almost barbaric, I would say, when it comes to language. But his paintings are amazingly spiritual. So what I did, I tried to approach it a little differently. While the one on the left is a little more refined, the one on the right, for example, this one, is more crude, it's more primordial. I applied chunks of paint using dirty rags. To me, that's a reflection of Soutine's, how I imagine Soutine might have felt. So, that's nice. Let's go to the next one. Here's an interesting conversation. Let's see. It's called Interaction with Light. So the one on the left was done in the 90s, and I'm very grateful to the owner. Some of these paintings are borrowed from owners. The one on the left deals with light. The objects, the head, the pillows, the bed, the sofa, are just setting the stage to display the transition of the light coming from the window behind onto inside. And that's what it's about the light. The one on the right is also about the light coming in from behind to the window. This one was done in 2019, much later, same subject. But this time the light comes into the room and explodes the reality. So it's up to the individual, to the viewer, to think up what may be happening there. So more is left up to the viewer. Here's one. I call this one space for music. So the one on the left, let me just straighten it out a little better. Okay. The one on the left is obviously more abstract. The one on the right is more figurative, even though I had interesting tasks set for myself when I painted the one on the right. Basically, in the one on the right, I'm present for my friend musician, who was my friend back in California when I lived there for 4 years. He was a musician, so I'm present for the music being created by the musician. So my connection to the music is through his hands that are kind of highlighted there. But the space is somewhat metaphysical. It's distorted perspective, and there's no vanishing point. So there is a little bit of distance between me and the music I am there witnessing. The one on the right was done when I discovered inexpensive paints, so I went pretty crazy. It's a very large painting. So in the one on the left, the colors are the music. I'm not illustrating the music. I'm being the music here. It's a pretty violent music, but that's my music. Here's a good one. The contrast is pretty striking here. And yet, these are presented as a group. The one on the left was done very early, back in Moscow, maybe 40 years ago. The one on the right is a very large painting. This conversation is called Presence and Anxiety. I feel the presence of the other person in a room very strongly, and it sends me into anxiety. So back when I did this one, I remember that I was making a picture. I flattened it out, and knowing that I'm making a picture created certain safety for me. I am there, I'm making a picture, so don't pay attention to me. I'm just sitting here. The one on the right, it's a large painting, and I've discovered that when I paint, when I draw, I stop feeling the anxiety of feeling the other person present, but the anxiety may not go away. In fact, the large painting is called The Anxiety of the Hand. It's pretty obvious that my hand is nervous here. These two are called organic thinking. The one on the left is a portrait of Jean-Paul Sartre. I was into philosophy for a long time, and I love French culture. So why organic thinking? The left artwork was it appears dark, but it was painted over very bright green colors. There was a vegetation there, but somehow intuitively I kept covering it up, and I created the portrait of Sartre without any references, just out of my head. But the gestures are very organic to me. When the true some people are just born philosophers. In fact, I was told that some people may not even know that they're philosophers, but to another philosopher, it's obvious. I don't know if Scott is present, but Scott actually gave me this idea, and it's beautiful. So I think for a person who was born a philosopher, thinking is very natural. So it's a natural process occurring in the left painting. The one on the right may have some Monet references in it, but these lilies they have a temper. They are about something else. They're not about landscape. They're kind of nervous. They have these existential questions asking themselves why we're here. They're nervous, they're anxious. So that's why these two are together. This is a rare moment of calmness for me. This conversation is called Calm Presence. Very different artworks, language-wise, but they're both sad paintings, actually. The one on the right, I painted my dog who passed away, but I didn't want to create a portrait specific to a breed. So it's an animal. It's an animal, but it's not a specific animal. It could be a fox, could be a wolf, could be a dog, but it's the animal who is in a different world. There's this cloud hanging in the white backgrounds, kind of dissolving into a different realm. The one on the left is the portrait done a long time ago of a dear friend of mine who passed away. At the time, obviously, I didn't know he would pass away, but he was present in the room, and it was so calming to draw these patterns, these lines, so soothing just to have a friend in a room with me. This is a sad story, actually. He's a great poet. He passed away 2 years ago. We didn't know what a great poet he was. He turned out to be a genius. Just yesterday, I received the volume of his poetry that was sent to me from Moscow. And I was reading the introduction. It's a long introduction, about 10 pages, and I thought of skipping it. I thought, I know Alex. I know him very well. Turns out that I don't. We had a genius among us, and we had no idea. He was painting. He was painting actually too. He was drawing, but he was hiding his poetry. He was not showing it to anybody. It was all unearthed after he passed away, and they published it, and it's brilliant. So you never know who's among your friends. We had quarrels with him. We had so much going on, and I just treated him as just a regular individual. And now I'm wondering who else is just like him, who is a genius that I have no idea about. So I just want to be more alert about whom life puts me in touch with, so I won't have to miss another brilliant man like Alex. This one is about lines. I'm thinking in lines, and I'm going to force quite a lot because lines soothing me. So you see a bunch of lines on the right side, and this comes out as a nervous energy on the right side. This was done at a performance, a live painting and music performance. And I took my stage fright. I was very nervous, and I decided to put it on display and actually make a performance out of it. But interestingly, I put the eye in the middle of this portrait. The eye is kind of anchoring my nervous energy and holds it and turns it into a portrait. The one on the left side is so different, but I was following the lines, folding those rags and shaping them. And again, I anchored it with the eye that stops all the nervousness and the movements. This is a video of that painting being done. I'm not sure if the sound carries nicely, so if for those who are interested, may watch it on their own.
The sound was good.
It was good? Was it, Scott?
Yeah, the sound was good.
Okay, great. So anyways, it's not a long one. So anyways,
Who's the pianist?
it's a brilliant musician, Brad Robin. He does performances with dancers, with art, with painters. So it was a 1-hour performance in 2019 at Orbit Gallery. There is a longer recording on my YouTube channel of that performance. So anyways, here's a interesting one. This one is called, let's see. Sometimes I don't remember what we called them. Ephemeral states. The one on the left was done back in college, I think, when I was still learning to paint and draw. And this one is sort of immaterial. It's suspended in the air. The objects are weightless. And the person is just dreaming in here. This one was done much later, but again, it's called, the red one is called Angel. Same desire to just go ahead and dream, but this one is just the angel is just completely dissolving. It's much more abstract, but the same drive in me. So let's speed up a little bit. Let's go to this one. This is an interesting pair. The one on the left was done on a Sunday afternoon, and I made sure I didn't plan anything. This is a double portrait. It's me and my wife. She was not there. There was no composition. I just painted this pretty large painting using my entire body. Nothing was conceived. In fact, I'm questioning the intention as an artist lately. Seems like every time I have an intention, it comes out so cerebral. So it's much better, I think, if I'm just present, if I'm just showing up for the mental state of mind at the moment, and I just channel and work with it. The one on the right is also an improvisation, but it's done with fabrics. I just laid out, I threw all these fabrics onto the canvas and then just teased out the image out of it. This one is called Ludwig. I think it looks like Ludwig. At least it's definitely somebody from the 19th century. Here is a dramatic one. So I have a whole series of light and dark portraits, and the lighter portraits, number 2 and number 4, they're very gestural. The charcoal stays on the surface. This is from the series of the Book of Esther, characters from the Book of Esther. The darker portraits, the 1 and number 3, I painted a little differently. It's a much heavier spirituality. I've combined mediums that do not mix. I've combined wet and dry technique. I mixed up white acrylic with charcoal. So my hand was constantly tripping and the medium was sinking into the paper. That's a completely different feel compared to, for example, this one. I mentioned I'm thinking in lines, and here's a good example. These were done maybe a few years apart. The 6 sketches on the left are kind of existential sketches. I'm following the line, allowing the lines to just clash and collide and fight with each other. But it's very soothing for me. I just do follow the line. I need the line. I need the vector when I draw. I'm not like Mark Rothko, who will just create spiritual pools of colors. I need my energy to travel along the line. So that's what I do here. And the 6 sketches on the left, I feel like they were assembled into this large painting on the right, which was done a few years later. This is could be a scary conversation. These two dark portraits on either side of the portal, the one on the left is called Loss of Identity, and the one on the right is Black Dog. So it's a human and an animal, but I call this grouping survivors. Seems like they both have gone through some ringer and maybe questioned a few things about themselves and the world. And I'm painting it from the inside out, basically how the person may feel. Obviously, there's no features. So this person is kind of wondering what's next, but the person is, in my view, is kind of ready to accept whatever is next because this person survived so much. Similar with this dog as well. It's a kind of sad dog, but wise dog who's seen a lot. Okay, let's skip this one. Let's do this one last, and then we'll see if there are questions. Oh no, let me just quickly do this one. It's called Discipline and Relaxation. The two sketches on the left, just a second, let's display them better. Here we go. The two sketches on the left I did in the army. I mean, my serving in the Russian army was a just bizarre circus of faking discipline and trying to avoid it and finding the rest in various positions. This is another soldier who was helping me to design a museum in the Red Army. He's sleeping his deep night, but we're still supposedly working. This one is the same person. This one was done years later, but kind of same thing. The person is relaxed. It's a kind of morning energy is showing through these paintings, kind of similar subject, just body trying to relax in the space. And let me go to, and there's so many of them. Let me quickly, yeah, let me do this one. I can't help doing this one. So this one may be most striking as far as juxtaposition of figurative and abstraction. The row on the bottom, very old drawings, done still in college. The top tier were done in 2020, and obviously they're more abstract. But what's striking here is that like 40 years later, I was present in the room, but I was making a picture again. I flattened out all the drawings on the bottom tier just to remind myself that I'm just making a picture here. The top tier, I'm fully present. I'm already inside of the other person. Oh, let me just display it as a pair here. So it's more striking that way. Yeah, the top and the bottom are very different, and yet to me, the one on the top is much more courageous. I'm not hiding behind painting or drawing. I'm not hiding behind demonstrating my skilled hand. I'm just there, and I'm inside, and I'm fully present. Okay, the one I wanted to do the last. Yeah, here's a grouping of three. Just a second. Yeah, the one on the left is a paraphrase on Russian classical painter Orest Kiprensky. The painting is called Young Gardener. His gardener is very peaceful. My gardener looked like he just killed someone. So the one in the middle is a transition from the more classical left painting to the recent small sketch on the right side. It's kind of transitional. I was tripping my hand. My hand is set, unfortunately, and fortunately, by my academic training at Moscow Institute of Architecture. It's a severe training of copying and hatching. So to do the one in the middle, I again mixed up charcoal with acrylic to trip my hand to feel the resistance. and to be less gestural. I think I'm still somewhat gestural. I've moved much further since this particular drawing. Here's the one on the right. This is a complete explosion. And it's called Just When I Thought I Got It. So let me back out. Been speaking for a long time. Just want to see if people have questions. And just stop sharing my screen. Well, thank you very much, guys, for being here. Let me know if any questions. The best way to do it is to raise a hand electronically. If you don't know how to do it, maybe put it in chat. If all fails, just go ahead and unmute yourself and speak up.
Well, if I may, I'm Scott Alexander. I think it's an astonishing array of different styles, which I had no idea. I saw your last Zoom show, which I thought was fantastic. But based on that, I had no idea of the kind of breadth of your career. And it's very impressive. And I'm seeing all these different styles. There was one that I was even surprised by, the lady in the bed with the quilted cover with all the light playing on it. And you talked about the light. And it struck me immediately that it looked like a super realist painting from the super realist period. Which I didn't at all expect to see from you. And then there was that last Russian painting, which looked extremely classical. And I also was very impressed by your explanation of how you get into the zone of the painting you're doing, and how I think you said that you're there, you're in the painting when you're doing it, and you're devoid of conceptualization. You're doing the painting, that's what you're doing. So all of this I found to be very impressive.
Thank you very much, Scott. I'm learning quite a lot from you as a philosopher, so you're an important connection for me. Thanks for showing up. I love when you speak.
Thank you very much.
There is a question in chat from Terry.
Okay, let me read it. I like the idea of tripping your hand. When did you begin this? And how did you come to it? Oh, that's wonderful, Terry. Thank you. My, let's call it Soviet training at the Moscow Institute of Architecture was excellent. It's kind of Beaux-Arts training in a very narrow sense of it. We were trained to do things in certain style. And for years I was so proud of it, and I'm still proud of it. But I realized that quite a lot of what I do is just an attempt to show off my skill in my hand. And it's not exactly freedom. When I try to work the form, the shape a little bit, I learned that I couldn't easily do that. I could exaggerate a little bit here and there, distort perspective a little bit, but when I was looking at art, really great art of the 20th century, the form was much freer than what I was capable of doing. How many times I started a portrait hoping that I will invent things as I go that would reflect not my skill, but me just being there. And I kept coming back to the correct proportions and the correct anatomy and the right perspective. So what I started doing, I started mixing up, I started creating obstacles for my hand. I've drawn upside down and with my eyes closed and mixing up the weird techniques that would fight back. And slowly, I learned that I also could invent as I go, not just follow the training. What helps me lately a lot is a freeform jazz improvisation. When there is no tune that I can follow, there's a whole army of musicians right now that I love, including one of my favorite right now, Chicago very own Ken Vandermark, amazing saxophone player, a musician and a composer. So he doesn't follow any predetermined tune. The moment you think that you caught the tune, he breaks it. So he invents things on the go. So he's kind of my hero. I want to do that, at least now. I'm very interested in that. So I don't like following the tune. I want to be there and see what's next and maybe avoid the predictable answers. So anyways, I hope I'm answering your question, Terry. Thank you. Kari, hi, hello. I found your explanation of needing to follow the energy of your hand interesting. Yeah, thank you very much, Kari. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
I hit send too quickly, specifically when you were talking about following the border of the energy, and I'm wondering if you had a change in perception of your own energy within you and how that was brought out onto canvas using the paint to flow, if that has changed throughout the years.
Yeah, I was always, thank you, that's just wonderful, yeah, good observation. I was always much more comfortable with line than with just pure color. I'm told that I drew horses since I was 3, following a line starting with a hoof. It was kind of, I was told, I don't remember that, but apparently I did. So following a line was a natural thing for me, but I didn't know about it until somebody just asked me this question. She said, what kind of painter are you or drawer are you? Do you start with one point and you follow wherever the line takes you, or you start with overall composition and then proceed onto the details? And I realized, oh my God, I'm exactly the first type. Whenever I conceive, I spoke about intent a little bit. Whenever I have an intent, that means I'm kind of going against my natural predisposition. When I conceive a large painting and then I go into the details, it comes out very dry and to me not interesting. But when I follow the line takes me places. So I've always been that way. I just was not aware of it until a few years back.
Thank you. Your work's beautiful.
Thanks.
Appreciate the answer to that question.
Ilya, the exhibition is superb, incredible art. Thanks, Ilya. Thanks for coming. Julia, can you please look straight? I'm reading a comment to Julia so that I wouldn't look down, but unfortunately my screen is below the camera, so my eyes are closed all the time. Thanks for pointing this out. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. Kimberly, okay, how do your paintings or experiences with music versus without music differ? Yeah, my whole life I thought I could not paint to music because I painted figuratively, and I painted without listening to any music at all. I tried, and the music took me one direction, and the figuration took me a different direction. So I decided I'm just not a very musical person. Until, interestingly, actually, the performance in 2019 with Brad Robin, we decided to do, I had this desire to do a performance, I just didn't know how. So, and his music is so syncopated, so not following a predetermined tune or even rhythm. I just blossomed there. That's what I follow. So in my abstraction, I do better listening to a music, but the music has to be a free form. I don't know if I'm answering the question. That these are my thoughts. Okay, Krista, I'm asking you to unmute. You have a hand raised. Oops. Did I just mute you again? Krista, I see you, but you're muted. I'm asking you
Okay,
to unmute.
hi.
Yes, hi.
Yeah, hi, I think we were doing it simultaneously, so I kept unmuting or muting myself. Anyway, thanks for sharing your work this way. I always love seeing what you're up to. And I don't really have a question as much as a comment, where I think it's interesting that you draw this, distinction between your figurative and your abstract work. And yet I think a key to the ones that seem like really particularly intriguing or resonant, that resonate with me, has to do with what you mentioned about setting up a situation where you might not be able to rely on your abundant skill in painting, so it's interesting because I love your abstractions. And then yet I saw in that one drawing of your friend, the poet, who has since died, it didn't seem like you were drawing him as much out of skill as out of this emotional connection. So it's just, I'm kind of wondering if it isn't, when you're in a situation where there's more of yourself at stake, like it's kind of like, it's maybe more vulnerable for you, if you're painting something like where he was such a good friend, or you're doing this work that's, you're labeling kind of abstract, although I think it's all abstract to some level, of course, but that maybe it has to do with, like you have a lot of skin in the game in those paintings. And I think it shows, it just seems like you're being very vulnerable, and that's very enticing and very attractive. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yes, very good, Krista. Thank you so much. That's beautiful. Being vulnerable is my goal, showing up. Interesting observation that the quieter drawing also reveals something about me and does show the vulnerability. It seems like right now I'm so wrapped in my higher energy. I'm kind of excited. I don't know, as I got older, I want to jump up and down. I'm just so happy that I can paint, so I paint with my entire body. But maybe this will be my next interest, to just go a little quieter with my newly discovered vulnerability and freedom and brevity, I guess, to just show up in a more quiet way and observe and do it that way. So anyways, I'm not my style. I'm an artist, so we'll see what's next.
Yeah, I'm excited too. Thank you.
Thank you, Krista. Let's see. Steve, okay. Born in Oslo, Norway. I visited the Edvard Munch Museum all the time as a child. I am so excited that Munch influenced your art. Can you elaborate? Oh, that's a beautiful question. Thank you very much, Steve. Good to have you here. Munch has a very, very special place inside my heart. I'm muting some people here. When I was going through my training in my college back in Russia, it was very practical. I was part of the system. Seems like in the Soviet Union, they will just make sure that as early as possible, well, preferably by the age of 17, you already know whom you want to be. And then so that with your best skill, you would serve, the country and others. So I was trained to go to the art school, to the Moscow Institute of Architecture, and my hand was set, and I entered passed the entry exam, which was pretty tough. When I was at the third year at the Moscow Institute of Architecture, I walked into the huge exhibition by Edvard Munch. It was at the Moscow Academy of Art, and I was just blown away. I just stood in front of any of his paintings, and I had such an immediate connection, and I just knew this was mine. This was not something that was not a skill, that was not something that was put inside of me by a system, by training, by art history. It was just me there. And the connection was great. And the paintings were not about, let's see, if there's a tree, it was not about the tree. It was about something else. If there was a mountain there, it was about something else, not just the mountain. It was like a psychological connection. So there was the subject, there was Munch, and then there was me as a viewer. So that's when I discovered that painting for me is much more personal than just a trained hand. So that's kind of my answer for now, Steve. Thank you for asking. Mike, what do you mean by the term visual language? Yeah, that's a very good question. There's the word style, and it seems like there's a huge drive and demand by the art world for an artist to work in a recognizable style. And so many people mistake that for personal development. The development is not, well, there is a visual development, but the development should be inside of the artist. So, and so many people, including myself for a long time, I thought if I arrive at a style, I'll have it all set, I'll have it all figured out. So I prefer calling it visual language. So different visual languages. One could be, well, first of all, there are different mediums. There are different approaches to perspective and to lines and the way I treat the surface, whether I break the painting plane or keep it flat. So this is kind of craft, or the carving that was part of the conversation number one next to a drawing. Those are different visual languages, but they all can express the same essential part of the artist. And that's the realization I'm having right now, thanks to this exhibition, that there is continuity in what's dear to me and to my interest, no matter which tool I pick up, and no matter what type of painting I was trained to do, flat or three-dimensional with correct perspective or with warped perspective, there is something that's behind a visual language. So that's why this exhibition is called Conversations Beyond Language. Thanks, Mike. Well, I hope I didn't miss anybody's question. It's perfect timing. So it's a couple of minutes before 8. Guys, thank you very much. This is so exciting. Wonderful questions. Thanks, guys, for showing up. It's an honor to present this to you. In fact, my art isn't complete until it's shown to someone and maybe even explained. Even visual people think in words. So I'm doing my best explaining what I do best with my hand. Thank you.